What's up, everybody? Sven Diesel here. We're just going to be tying up a booby bugger, booby fly, if that's what you call it, using some ice stub here. It's Superfly's ice stub and a little bit of a marabou tail, and of course the critical ingredient is the foam cylinder or the booby fly, which makes it a booby fly. So let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and just cut this off. We've got an Arex hook in the vise. This is an FW. Hey, what's up, Parky Park? We've got an Arex FW 560, I believe, size 1. And I've got some wax thread on here in a 12-aught. And I'll go ahead and just start this right behind the eye, working my way back down the shank. And I'll go ahead and cut out this tag end. And then I will work my thread back up. So I've got about an eye gap between where my thread is now, and I know it's hard to see with it being black on black, but we've got about an eye length between where our thread is now and the actual hook eye. Now for this material, we're going to be making our own foam cylinder, and I got this cutter tool set, and so this is just basically the different cutters. I already have this one loaded into a drill, and we're going to use black for this. Why do you use those expensive hooks, I'm asked? Because the last thing I want is for a hook to bend out. I have really good luck with these, and so I'd rather not waste my time on, I guess, an inexpensive hook, because that's the critical part. When you spend all this time on a fly, you just don't want the hook bending out. So, real easy. Make sure you're not cutting this, otherwise you'll ruin the cutters. I'm just going to hold it sideways so you can see. And I'm going to insert the drill, start it where I want it, and go straight through. I'm taking my time. You could probably go faster. But that's all you need right there. Pretty easy peasy. And then I just use a little bodkin here to slide it up so I don't cut my fingers. And there is our foam cylinder. Now, this is pretty long. You can see it's almost 1.5 the length of the shank of the hook, and so I'm just going to use where my bodkin was poked in, and I'll basically cut it in half. So I just created 2 eyes that we can use. Hey, how's it going, Argentina? So I created 2 different eyes that we can use now, and so I'm going to hold this on the top of the shank, pinch it with my fingers, and then I'm going to bring the thread straight up and over and down, check it to make sure that we're in the middle of each of those, trying not to lose it as we're doing this. And then I'll do a second securing wrap, and you can see when it slid, because I was trying to show you guys, it kind of shifted, and so I'll just put it right back in spot. And then just like when you're doing dumbbell eyes, I twist it to the side, and then I'll do a wrap in front, wrap over, wrap in front, and then I'll kind of figure eight it. And let me check out, I got a little bit longer on this side, so I'll just go ahead and trim that off. So you can see we're now pretty proportionate. I got these cutters from UPAVON Fly Fishing. So come with a bunch of different sizes so you can make all the cylinders that you want. And so we're just going to make sure this is straight, just like on your dumbbell eyes. If it's shifting one way, you want to wrap it the opposite way. And then I'll come back over and I'll do some over-unders. And we're golden at this point. Don't worry if they shift a little bit, because we're going to position it there at the end with some UV resin. But use your thread, work your way into the bend of the hook. And now we're just going to grab some of this marabou. This is off of Whiting Farm Super Boo. I'm just going to go ahead and grab 2 feathers off, because these are a little bit sparse. And for this particular pattern, I like it to be a sparse tail. And I'm going to take the first feather, and it's about 1.5, almost 2 times the length of the shank of the hook. And I'll go ahead and pinch it right there at the back, do about 2 or 3 wraps up the shank, loose wraps, check the positioning. I like it, so then I'll crank down with some nice securing wraps. And then I'll do an over-under, meaning holding up the tail, wrapping underneath, and then I do a secondary wrap backwards, so it's almost pinching that marabou into a tighter circle. And don't trim this out yet. We're going to use this. So leave that there. It's going to be in the way. But now for this one, we're going to take our fibers and I'm going to trim off the fluff using a flagler method right there of getting your tail nice and shorter, and then I'll go ahead and trim out the cord. So we get kind of a flying V there on the top. I'll match up the tips and then go ahead and secure that right there on top of our existing. Checking our length, looks pretty good. And that right there is how it's done. So, and then wrap our way up, keeping those fibers nice and secure. Let's see. I'm just checking this to see what we need. I don't need both of these, so I'm going to trim out the top one without trimming my thread. And so just make sure you got one feather. What we're doing is we're creating the mohawk in between the boobie eyes. Totally unnecessary, but just adds a little bit of fun. All right, next step is we're going to take one strand of crystal flash. I'm going with kind of it's like a peacock pearl, I guess. I'm going to fold it in half. Make sure that the length is longer than the marabou because we don't need this whole piece. And then I'll pinch it in on my side, do a few wraps, and then make sure it's kind of going straight down the side. You can't see it on your end, but here I'll show you now. So I hold this end straight up. I wrap up and over, causing that material to do a flying V, and then I'm pinching them together so that they're basically going out each side equally, and then I'll crank down on that with some nice securing wraps, pull the fibers, the crystal flash back just past the marabou, and cut them. We're almost done actually, so it's looking pretty good. Now we just want to create a dubbing loop, and the way I do that is I just make about a 4-inch section. You could probably get by with a 3, and then I wrap back towards where that crystal flash is tied in, and then work my way back up to right behind the eyes, and we've got our dubbing loop right here in black. So it's really hard for you to see, but usually black is the more effective color for catching fish. What's up, Custom Flies? How are you this evening? Now for this, I've got in the Stonfo Elite whatever rotary awesome dubbing twist tool, and we're going to be using some ice dub from Semperfli. I'm going to use these two colors, black and I believe it's peacock, and I'm going to open it up and take out a smidge of peacock and then a bigger smidge of black, almost double the peacock color. So you got 2-to-1 ratio right there of black to peacock. And then we're going to take these, and while they're nice and aligned, I'm going to take it in the halfway point and just, oh, maybe not. I guess I'll cut it. Too strong, too durable of a material. So fold it in half, cut it. And so we've got some natural ends and some ends that are now lined up. It's not going to matter because we're going to align these by mixing it, and you can twist it up. You're going to lose about a little bit of the fibers as you're doing this, unless you're ultra careful. You can see that's pretty mixed right there and pretty aligned, but it's not an even taper. Great bunch of income special for, oh, cool, man. Nice job. So I'll go ahead and put that in the dubbing loop, and you can see it's all nice and clumped together. And I'm going to spread this out really sparse because I don't want a super dense body on here. And so I'm just going to spread those all over so they take up about 3.5 inches. How long is a smidge? A smidge is roughly the circumference of the circle of the eye stub that comes off of the import boat. And so you take the circumference that it had to turn in, divide it by the square root of pi, and then you're left with the correct number of fibers you need for a smidge. So as I'm wrapping this, I'm trying to preen some of this eye stub back, and we're going to really kind of crowd it right here behind these eyes so that we get a nice something, you know, to push against those to keep them in place. And when you're left with just a little bit left, you can see I did that perfect because I'm such an elite tire and amazing at what I do. It's just a perfect length. I'm going to move the marabou out of the way and pull that down in between those eyes and bring it to my side of the hook eye. Then I'm going to take my thread, bring it up and trap it, pull everything back, do 2 wraps around that hook eye. I'll trap this again. And this is just to make sure everything's tied off here at the head. And then I'll pull up, go ahead and cut that out. So our dub loop is now secure right there. I'll do just a couple securing wraps at this point. And you can see we've got a little bit of eye stub that's coming up in our way. If that bothers you, I'll show you a little trick here in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and mohawk this. By mohawk, I mean I'm just adding a little bit of marabou in between those 2 foam eyes. You know, the fish don't really care about that, but I think it's kind of fun. And then we'll go ahead and secure that with a bunch of wraps. And then we can trim it out. And then we'll just pull everything back with our finger there, do some nice securing wraps, kind of clean up, create a head. And that's why I really like this bobbin for this particular fly, is because that tip really just gets like right where you want it to go. And then I'll grab my midge whip finisher and go ahead and do a 3-turn whip finish, if I can see what I'm doing, because it's all black. Okay, we got that. Now, for those that are OCD about their heads, what's up? Hello from Tassie, welcome. So what you want to do is just take a lighter, hopefully one that's not out of, there we go. I'm going to grab a different one. Maybe this one's not out. Oh yeah. And just get close and just kind of wave it. If you light your fly on fire, you got too close. You can see that just cleaned up the head, got all those stray fibers out, and you're going to smell like burnt hair. Your wife's going to get mad. And then I take a little bit of this no-tack UV resin. I flip it upside down. And right there between the 2 eyes, I kind of just pull them together so it opens them up. And I'm just going to put a little bit of resin right there. That also provides the secure for the whip finish, and also allows you to shape these the way you want it. So say you got one that's just not quite where you want it, because we all know the fish care about this. I'm just going to brush it or push these a little bit forward, and then I'll go ahead and cure it, looking away as I do this. And that's it. Last step is make sure you got a nice brush, because we use some good quality thread on a good quality hook and good materials. We'll just brush this out, trying to make sure that it's nice and sparse so that it tapers really nice. And that right there is going to look nice and awesome while wet. So pretty easy pattern, pretty straightforward and simple. You can see it didn't take very long, and it catches fish. And the foam, you know, you can make these cylinders in a lot of different colors. Marabou comes in 100 different colors. Well, not quite 100, I'd say 67. I know that Semperfly Ice Stub comes in a bunch of colors or comparable product, but I really like that the best of what I've used. And I think that's it. Crystal Flash comes in a whole bunch of colors too. So yeah, good luck tying them. Hopefully they catch some lips and pierce some lips for you. And thanks for joining tonight. So peace.